Hi, my name's Kerry Logan. I'm your host for today. I'm based here in Perth in Western Australia, so miles away from some of you, close to home for a few others. I'd just like to take a quick moment to acknowledge that I come to you from the home of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, the traditional custodians of this place that I also call home. There's quite a few, as I said, there's quite a few familiar names on the attendance list, but for those that are new to our webinars, I'd like to give you a quick overview of the ISGA. Established in 2011, we're a global network of organisations and professionals all working to enrich children's learning and play by improving the way school grounds are designed and used. Our work represents both the diversity of our membership and the wide range of issues and topics that intersect with education and care settings outside school grounds. My first contact with ISGA was at the 2015 Bali conference, and our conferences certainly provide a great opportunity to share knowledge, showcase exemplars in design and practice, and of course support each other, particularly those that are working on their own or in difficult circumstances. As a member of the Beneficial Risk Working Group, I am very proud to promote our statement on risk in play and learning. This little baby up here, that took a long time to get those nice few succinct words right, but I think they are a powerful statement calling for common sense in risk management in schools. If you work in education, I can highly recommend the expansive International School Grounds Monthly Activity Guide. It includes contributions from members around the world. It's a great resource with something for every school year, every climate and every setting. You can find lots of other information about what we do on the ISGA website. Now I'm going to introduce you to Anders. I met Anders in 2015 at that Bali conference, and it's just been a treat. We worked together on the working group for beneficial risk, and he's going to start us off tonight my time. Anders, you can now turn your mic on and share your screen.
Righto. Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me now, and I will say I'm very glad to have been invited to talk in this webinar. It's a great honor for me, but I want to start by saying that I'm speaking on behalf of all of my lovely, inspiring colleagues in the International School Ground Alliance, especially my colleague Lisa Howard from California, with whom I shared the task of coordinating a working group. The working group that Kerry just talked about, that produced the ISGA Declaration on Risk in Play and Learning. And of course, the whole working group with participants from many different countries and continents, including Muhammad Ariefuddin from Indonesia, whom you will also have the privilege of listening to later this hour. Together we made a statement that hopefully is relevant enough in all countries on this earth. Well, that was our ambition. So when I now start sharing my screen, I hope you can see it now. I would like to start by asking you, which is the strongest guiding factor in the design of children's environments today? It ought to be some science-based knowledge about children's need, wouldn't it? But unfortunately, it's not. Here's a clue for you. See if I can get that right. No, it doesn't show. This is something you don't want to happen. Ah, there you go. There's a clue. I would say the strongest guiding factor in the design of children's environment is fear. Illustrated here by the famous Scandinavian painter Edvard Munch. Fear, of course, that a serious accident might happen to my child, but also fear of not doing the right thing, fear of what other people might think of me and my parenting. School staff fear that they might be prosecuted if an accident happens, and so does responsible decision makers on all levels. And this strongly limits children's freedom to play, and often lead to something like this. You are probably familiar, some of you, with the expression KFC. You take a prefab kit, place it on a rubber carpet, put up a fence around it, and you get a wonderful environment. That was Swedish irony, because schools and preschool grounds have become prisons where children are fenced in by fences inside the fences. It's a real fence madness. So children tend to be overprotected. And we find expressions for this in many countries and cultures. You are probably familiar with bubble wrap children and helicopter parents that never leave the kids unsupervised. In Sweden, we have the expression curling parents. For those of you that know how the sport curling works, you can understand the metaphor that the parents use the broom to sweep the course clean from all obstacles so the children can slide through their childhood without encountering any difficulties or challenges. Common to all cultures is that the adult behavior is done with the very best of intentions, but with fear as the driving force. So instead, the unwanted effect of all this is less physically fit children with low motor control and low risk mastery. In other words, a major health problem for the rising generation. In the International School Ground Alliance, we have seen the need for an international statement on the necessity to offer children beneficial risk-taking activities. And the result that you see here is based mainly on scientific evidence, but also partly on our own experiences and beliefs from different cultural contexts around the globe. I know it can be difficult to read here, but you can read the full declaration on the ISGA's website, where you can find it in 15 different languages. In the introduction, we conclude that if a schoolyard is to be regarded as well-functioning, it must offer opportunities for risk-taking activities. It is the responsible adults and institutions that shall use common sense in providing and allowing risk-taking activities for children and young people. Kerry mentioned that it took a long time. It took 3 years to end this statement, and there has been a lot of wordsmithing in the process. One of the phrases we discussed was common sense. By using it, we want to emphasize the importance of the attitude and values of the responsible adults, and point out that designing an environment based mainly on technical matrices and templates is not sufficient. We have gathered an impressive amount of references from research in this area. The references come from many different countries around the world. And please do not try to read the titles here. I only wanted to show you in one slide how much research we actually found out there that support this statement. And if I have to choose just one researcher in my 20 minutes, it will be Ellen Beate Sandsäter from our neighboring country, Norway. She makes clear that risky play seems to be a natural part of children's play and action, and that children seek out chances for engaging in risky, challenging, and thrilling play wherever they are. The overall aim of her studies is to contribute to a better understanding of this phenomenon. So Ellen found that children experience both fear and excitement in risky play, and that this ambiguous feeling is the central motivation for engaging in this play. It is the feeling of being on the edge, balancing between the pleasant emotions and the unpleasant emotions that rewards the child with the most intense pleasure and excitement. She calls this feeling scary funny. Sandsäter's observations and interviews with preschool children and staff revealed 6 categories of risky play. Play with great heights, being on the edge of falling down. Play with high speed, that's being on the edge of uncontrolled speed that can lead to collision with something or someone. Play with dangerous tools that can lead to injuries. Play near dangerous elements, being on the edge of falling into or falling from something. Rough and tumble play, that's being on the edge of harming each other. And the last one, play where the children can disappear, get lost, having the feeling of being invisible or unsupervised. So this is what you should let the kids do. But instead, common to all these 6 categories is that they are most often banned by the adults. I'm using Ellen's own words for the 6 categories, and I have discussed them with her. And for example, she says that adults tend to misunderstand rough and tumble play as something aggressive. Usually it's not. Instead, it's a kind of play that most young mammals engage in to develop. Ellen also says that it works in Norway to say dangerous tools. Myself, I usually prefer to put in potentially dangerous tools, potentially dangerous elements. I mean, they can be dangerous, but they become less dangerous if you are allowed to practice. I think it's important how to use the words risk and danger. Both words often give negative associations to people, but it's the dangers we should try to minimize. And I say minimize because we can never completely eliminate them. Unexpected accidents will happen, but it is important that our safety measures focus on avoiding the serious accidents. Accidents that can lead to loss of life, limb, or function. While beneficial risk-taking is something we need to encourage. Simply because a potential risk is also a potential opportunity for learning. And you need to consider this balance in what is commonly referred to as RBA, risk-benefit assessment. I saw this piece of beautiful art a couple of years ago in a sculpture park in Sweden. The artist Helene Blumenfeld calls it taking risks. She uses a rock-hard material, this is marble, and create beautiful soft shapes. And that, I mean, is really taking risks. And in the exhibition folder, she expressed that we are so focused on what we might lose by taking a risk that we cannot see what we could gain from doing so. And I found that is actually a very good explanation of what risk-benefit assessment is all about. Here are some concluding quotes from the Declaration on Risk in Play and Learning. And again, if you have difficulties in reading it, you can find the full text on the ISGA website in 15 languages. Children and young people need to take risks to develop their cognitive, social, physical, and mental skills. It's important to point out here that all children, regardless of ability, have the same right to develop these skills. Approach in the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. So let me quote a section of general comment on Article 31 of the Convention. It's about balancing risk and safety. Fears over the physical and human risks to which children are exposed within their local environments are leading to increasing levels of monitoring and surveillance, with consequent constraints on their freedom to play and opportunities for recreation. While children must not be exposed to harm in the realization of their rights under Article 31, some degree of risk and challenge is integral to play and recreational activities, and is a necessary component of the benefits of these activities. A balance is needed between, on the one hand, taking action to reduce unacceptable hazards in children's environment, and on the other hand, informing, equipping, and empowering children to take the necessary precautions to enhance their own safety. That's strong words from the Convention on the Rights of the Child. My point is that adults that act and make decisions out of fear do not take into account that balance that equips children to develop their own risk assessment capabilities. Anyone said something? Oh, mistake maybe. The ISDA believes, with the support of research, that such a balance gives children and young people important lessons about themselves and their world. These are lessons that cannot be taught and can only be learned through experience and self-chosen action. So the conclusion is simply that a policy that implies indiscriminate risk minimization can be more harmful than beneficial. This conclusion, as well as the claim that hurt can provide a positive experience, is certainly overwhelming to many. But nevertheless, ISDA's main message in the final paragraph is that school grounds should not be as safe as possible, but as safe as necessary. So because the trend of an often unjustified and excessive fear of risk is spreading, the International School Grounds Alliance want to make a call to action. In simple words, all adults have a responsibility to help reverse the trend. But we have also specifically identified some main target groups. Educators is perhaps one of the most obvious. Parents and other adult family members is another. All those who plan, design, manage, supervise, and maintain school environments need to take benefits of risk into account. Administrators, policymakers, and not forgetting insurance companies should also devise policies that permit and encourage activities with beneficial levels of risk. Here's some good advice to you from the Canadian consultant Peter Kells that I listened to in Toronto some years ago. Be systematic and have good reasons for your design choices. And this is important. Document the choices. And when you do that, remember that perfection is not, is supposed to say behind his head there, perfection is not expected in terms of balancing risks, but a reasonable approach. So that's another words again for common sense, isn't it? So if you have documentation about your pedagogical purposes with the outdoor environment, and it doesn't have to be technically advanced, it shows that you have not been negligent if an accident happens after all. So with these good tips from Peter Kells, you can leave the fear behind and instead start creating good and developing outdoor environments for children based on your scientific knowledge. So what does science say then? What does a stimulating physical environment look like? An environment where children can learn to take risks in a way that doesn't seriously harm them. Researchers have concluded that natural environments often offer such risk-taking. Pretty obvious, isn't it? I mean, we are part of nature after all. And look at this picture. It actually shows one of our preschool grounds in Lund. From the beginning, it wasn't planned for school activities. And paradoxically, that's why it's so good. It was an old garden that hadn't been maintained for many years. And when there was an urgent need for a preschool in the area, this was found. Happily enough, the staff realized what qualities there were and have hardly changed anything at all. So here the kids have logs, boulders, trees to climb, bushes to hide in. very different to the KFC playground I showed you in the beginning. But is it possible to create nature-like school grounds in the middle of a big city? Well, this slide is an example of that. I took this photo in Yokohama, Japan, big city with almost 4 million inhabitants. Of course, this is not done in a year or two. It requires both determination and patience and a favorable climate. But it can be done if we start today. An easier and quicker way to directly give children challenges is to make sure they have plenty of loose material. And loose material can often be obtained for free or at very low cost. Loose material stimulates construction play and also contributes to the development of social, physical, and other skills from across the curriculum, such as literacy, numeracy, art, design, and technology. So if children are given the space and time to express themselves creatively and collaboratively, they develop self-confidence, positive behaviors, motivation to learn, and willingness to take risks. I hope you think the ISGA declaration makes sense and can be a useful tool in your everyday work. If you do, please help us spread the word in your context. And now I know that Ariefuddin has some additional advice to give you on how to make this happen in practice. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Anders. Sorry, apologies, I forgot to turn my mic on. Ari, would you like to share your screen now and unmute yourself? Thank you, Anders. I was thinking of my daughter when you were talking about, my youngest daughter, when you were talking about seeking out risk and challenge. When she was 6, we went to an adventure park and she was too small for all the rides. And when she was 8, we went to an adventure park and she had a go at everything. And she came up to me halfway through the day to say, "Wow, Mummy, I'm tackling all my fears today." She was so excited. That's wonderful. Ari, thank you for joining us. I'll leave it to you. I'll hand over to you. We can see your presentation, so we're all ready to go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Hi, everybody. I am Muhammad Ariefuddin, and thank you for inviting me in this webinar. I'd like to share about what I have done in the Nurul Islam Natural School. This is the school, the one of the natural school in Java, Indonesia. We starting with some just like a tagline or slogan: "Life is never flat." As we know that we have a lot of contour and natural shape in this earth. Yeah, many mountains, seas, ravines, forests, desert, and surround human life. Yeah, and natural phenomena like rain, hurricane, hot suns cannot be avoided in our environment. Just like this in this picture, this is dust invasion. Then when one of the active volcano in Java is erupted, then they giving a lot of dust, and the school is full of dust. So we must clean, and the children is so use the mask to avoid the dust for coming to the respiration. And this is the picture of activity in the one of the big river in near around the school. This This river is um, the one of the big river that we always do the learning in this location. Okay, so include this current global corona pandemic is also part of an event that can change human life. Then and humans must be able to adapt and survive with the behavior of nature. As Andres says in the declaration of risk, beneficial risk, that risk can only be learned by experience. Students cannot have the character to dare to take a risk, survive the challenges, or never give up only through teaching in the classroom, with the speech, with the memorizing. Not only that, but it must be trained, tested, and must be experiencing. So the children can feel and can have effort to how they can face the problem, what the aim, the focus, how to reach everything they want on how to make a solution about the problem what they face. This is the background of Nurul Islam that uh, this is the location of the background of Nurul Islam schools, that the condition of Nurul Islam schools natural environment can be said to be quite complete. To the north, about 20 kilometers, there's active volcano of Merapi. And to the south, about 30 kilometers, there is a Java Sea. Next to the school is there is a river, that even the south of the school location, there's a community cemetery in this picture. Yeah, the children always learn and come to the cemetery. Also, the school is also close to the village and rice fields, that we can use the rice field and the village is a media to we make a learning process, studies as teacher and the children to make a socialization to them. These natural conditions are very important to support the learning process of students, to their ability to face life. Okay. In addition to complete natural potential, the school has also designed the school environment as a place to play the sport, to support the learning process and power up student ability in facing life. Just like this is one of the playing tools, the integrated wall climbing that
Sorry to interrupt you, Ari. Your screen is not being shared at the moment.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Yes. Okay. It's okay. Yes. This is a integrated wall climbing that always we use it to high risk playing, to challenge their uh, brave. Then this can be built integrated with the integrated with the building, the classroom. And then there is some playing tools that installed that can be removed and installed, such as for flying fox, a game we call just Elvis walk, and just like this. This is a rope-based playing tools. And we also use the river near the school as a medium, such as mini rafting, rescuing, and human tower. And how we can make the learning strategies. There is one at the special cost for each student once a month. We call it outbound. So every student can experiencing to train how they can brief to facing every risk, and to make a coordinating between friends, each other, and integrated. So there is integrated with learning teams. So the activities can be integrated with learning teams. For example, learning about knowing the natural environment. Student immediately carrying out activities in mountain, just like this, and rivers or a forest. And there is another special program such as camping and natural walk. This is about the security issues, and how about to school and the school to make overcome the security issues. We make a good coordinating with the parents. Every parents have a forum, and there is some activities that the parent is included with these activities, just like camping or the activities that so the parents can trust about what we do with the learning, and what we use to get the purpose to every learning in this activity. And we always ensuring all safety tools are standardized and well maintained, and security procedures are strictly enforced, such as surveys and simulations are ensured to be carried out to find out all possibilities. Every student and teacher is covered by insurance. Until now, there has never been a fatal incident, and we hope that everything will be continue to be fine. And collaboration with the nearest hospital for referral in the event of an emergency. Okay, Carrie, this is all my
Thank you very much. Thank you very much,
presentation, Carrie. Yes.
That is fantastic. I love all those exciting things that your students get to do inside the school grounds as well as out in the neighbourhood and the nearby. It's fantastic. And it's so silly that some schools here worry about splinters, and your students have to worry about a blinking volcano. It puts things into perspective, doesn't it, Anders? Everyone's enthralled, and like me, you forget to ask questions when you're listening so intently. I thought it was really lovely how you engage with the parents. Do the parents are the parents reluctant, or are they nervous about these activities when you talk to them about it? Or do they quickly
yeah,
get enthusiastic?
The first time, some of parents is quickly nervous, but we try to explain and then joining them to the activities, so the parents can be feel to the activities like the students do, to student feeling. So the parents can conclude conclude it, and oh, it's fine, it's nothing worried, there's nothing to be worried. So it's okay. Uh, that's what we do in to make how the parents are not worry.
It's lovely, isn't it? I do recall reading some research many years ago about the link between risky play, allowing students to play on more risky activities, also carries into the classroom. So they might be a bit more brave about putting their hand up. Is that something that you guys have experience of through your work?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it encourages students to be braver generally at school?
Mm. Yeah,
Well, yes.
there's a, yeah, there's.
I was just going to say that you can find research that shows that the self-confidence rises among students. Absolutely.
Yeah. So even in their academic challenges.
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ari, you were.
And you would. Ari was going to say something. Sorry. Oh,
have
someone's.
Ari,
yeah, sorry.
Have you noticed that as well in your school with your students, that they perform better in the academic subjects?
Yes, it's support that these activities that make forming a character. So when they find some difficulty, they can keep up to
to push through.
Yes. I see there's some student in the school and the classroom. The correlation between this activity to in the classroom. When the student have a difficulty in the learning, they keep strong to get the focus to the purpose. No, all is what I'm saying.
It's okay.
There is a correlation, of course. There is a correlation.
Yeah,
a big correlation between the activities in the outdoor activities and the learning in the classroom.
Ari, Sue Waite has asked a question that I was wondering too. The type of risky play and risky, exciting activities that you do in your school, is that reasonably common across Indonesia, or do you think you're quite unique in doing that?
Quite unique, but we have a network, the Naturskolan networking, that just like this, every school in this network is doing like this too. That just we are doing in this networking, not especially in this private school. And
in the private schools,
I don't see a lot of that in the public school. I don't see a lot in the public school. They're doing like this too. So this is a special in Naturskolan networking.
How many schools are we talking about in this Naturskolan network you have? How many schools?
About 200 in Indonesia. 200.
Oh wow, that's fantastic.
Around Indonesia.
That's a lovely number. I can't see any other questions. Any last comments? We might wrap up a bit early, which is amazing. Normally we are running late. You guys have been great with your timekeeping. Any last thoughts, Anders?
Not really. If there's any more questions, I would be happy to try to answer them.
I would add, I think we've had loads and loads of, have we got a latest count on our people who have endorsed the risk statement?
Oh yeah, that's a good thing to mention, that you can actually, when you look for the declaration on the ISJ webpage, you can go in and endorse it. So we have
add your voice.
I think we have 300 or 400 endorsements at the moment, or something like that. So please do that if you feel.
Yeah, it's lovely. I was going to say the playground safety standards, which are often a rationale for developing those KFC playgrounds. In Australia, the introduction to our playground safety standards are very clear that playgrounds cannot and shouldn't aspire to be 100% safe, that children naturally need to stretch and grow and develop and challenge themselves, and which is wonderfully affirming in a safety document, to acknowledge that the standards are never going to prevent every minor injury, but that they want to make sure that they're protecting children's life and protection from long-term injuries that impact on children's lives through the lifespan. So it's the minor bumps and bruises and broken arms are included as quite an acceptable risk, while making sure that children have opportunities to stretch and challenge themselves, which is a great reminder for people who like to feel comfort in having safety standards. Oh, we've got no more questions. How to educate adults to encourage them to not feel fear? That is a really good question. Anders, I do remember Peter at the Lund conference talking about his reflections when he took his daughter to a playground, and she started doing, his first daughter, as a new parent, took his daughter and she started doing something a bit challenging, and another dad just tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Turn around, don't look," which I thought was great advice.
Another researcher from in Canada, Mariana Brosoni from Vancouver, she says, try to count to 17, and then the situation had played itself out.
Yes, that's my advice to lots of teachers. Before you rush in and just take a breath, look. You'll normally see the child has 3 points of contact, great concentration on their face, and acknowledge how well they're taking care of themselves before you jump in.
Yeah.
Now there's another.
I showed a couple of slides from Japan, and we at one school we saw there was a sign for the parents, giving them this philosophy that if you see something that looks a bit dangerous, don't interrupt, let the children just see. So it was a message to the parents there too. I guess you have something similar, Ariefuddin, when you train your parents as well.
Yeah. There's a lovely quote from F.D. Roosevelt. Someone, Bernard has chimed in with, "There's nothing to fear but fear itself." I think we do our children a great disservice if we keep telling them that they're incompetent and can't be trusted. So it's something that I hold dear for my children. They'll be brave. I think we're going to wrap up early, which is wonderful. Thank you both.
For you, sitting up late in the evening, right?
Yeah, well, it's not too late. Could you talk of socio-emotional benefits from theory, Anders and Ari's experience? We need it so much.
Socio-emotional benefits.
I think for me, it's that sense of mastery, the sense of achievement that children can gain, a sense of self-autonomy. I'm able to tackle a challenge and overcome, use my own personal wits and skills to overcome it. I might not overcome it straight away. I might need to practice, just as children practice to learn to walk. There's a lot of falling over when babies are first toddling up and learning how to stand on their own 2 feet and and navigate from one spot to another. And it's very much the case as children grow, and we all learn and overcome the challenges of life. Would you agree, Anders?
Yes, and you're speaking about the socio-emotional benefits from practice more than from theory, and I agree on that. You see it very much. It's very much obvious when you see it in practice. So we have to value that.
Oh, I think we're going to wind up because everyone's run out of questions. Hopefully everyone's inspired, and we will all go out and climb a tree tomorrow. Thank you everyone for joining. Oh, before we leave, I'm just going to share my screen. I do have some more little bits to talk about. Right. Our next webinar is Nature Connections on School Grounds. We have some case studies from Europe and South America. Details are all on Eventbrite. And I think our May and possibly June webinars are going to be little tasters of the ISGA conference in September. This is going to be an interesting, challenging experience. The ISGA conference was supposed to be held last year, at the end of last year, and of course COVID just interrupted all the plans for that. So it's been postponed a year, and there's been lots of planning and strategizing how to make this as inclusive as possible, overcoming flight restrictions, travel restrictions, and all the dilemmas that go with that. So it's going to be a hybrid event. I would encourage you to check that out. There's still nothing's really fixed in concrete still at this stage, because there's still lots of negotiating and planning going on. But the couple of webinars in May and possibly June are going to do some tasters. So that'll be an interesting chance to see what's going to be on offer. And I think that's about it. Lovely